Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Game 5 of WhiteRa versus Hyun in this best of 9 show match. And so far this series has not disappointed. Game 2, easily the best game of this series, but every game has been really exciting so far. We'll see what happens here in Game 5. This is one of my favorite maps in the Heart of the Storm beta. It is Akalon Waste. But let me go ahead and introduce the players real quick. Down the bottom right, we do have the blue Protoss player WhiteRa, and at the top left-hand corner, we do have Quantic Gaming's Hyun. So it is 3-1 right now, and Hyun has been able to earn back a little bit of momentum. You know, it's going to be a long, hard grind for him. It's going to be a long and arduous road ahead of him in order to get back in this game and actually obtain victory. The question is, can he do it? It is, you know, very few players are able to come back from such a heavy deficit. The odds are heavily stacked against them, and it's not made much easier when you're playing a guy like WhiteRa, who knows the ins and outs of this game. He knows how to apply pressure, when to back off. WhiteRa is so experienced. I think he's more experienced than Hyun is in Heart of the Storm, because WhiteRa has been playing since the day the beta came out. I don't know if Hyun has. I don't think he has, at least. He's got other obligations in Wings of Liberty. At least he did. But anyways, this is going to be really exciting, man. Akalon Waste is a big-time map. Usually you see a lot of late-game situations on this one. So I'm very excited to see if this is going to boil down to another one of those macro battles. You know, maybe we're going to see the Sky Toss build coming out from WhiteRa again. There was a bit of an inkling, I feel like, in the last game. I thought maybe there was going to be a chance that WhiteRa was going to go for his Sky Toss strategy, but it didn't happen. He did make one Stargate, yes, but it was scouted out by that Zergling, and on top of that, WhiteRa was forced to go into some Colossus in the early game, so he never really had a chance to go for Sky Toss. Unfortunately, the end of that game was not good for WhiteRa, and Hyun now has one game won. We'll see if he'll be able to get another one. He is trying to get this hatchery down right now. WhiteRa doing a pretty good job. You know, what's interesting is a lot of Protoss now aren't making that pylon anymore to try to block the hatchery, which is weird. You know, usually you see Protoss players make that pylon once the probe loses enough of its HP, but I guess it's kind of fallen out of favor here in Heart of the Storm. Maybe they've realized that making a pylon there ends up delaying their structures back here. But then again, I always felt like it was more annoying to Zerg to have a pylon there, because you can always cancel it and recuperate your minerals once it gets close to completing. But I guess WhiteRa is the kind of Protoss player that has evolved past that type of that brutality, if you will. So he's got a higher sense of victory now. WhiteRa, man. Granddaddy Protoss, man. That's Special Tactics 101. We'll see, though. We'll see. There are a couple of Zerglings making their way over to the right-hand side, and a couple of gateways are here. In fact, it is the double gateway opening once again from WhiteRa, which we saw, I think, in Game 2 of this series. He never really went for that Kiwi-Kaki style, I'm going to go with 6 Zealots around 7 minutes in and attack you, but it's always a possibility. WhiteRa actually let these 2 Zerglings inside of his base. Of course, on Akalon Waste, it's pretty hard to block off that ramp in the early game, so you can't really blame him, but 2 Zerglings, of course, as Mama always said, is worser than 1. Or better than 1, however you're looking at it. So these 2 Zerglings now obviously going to be a double threat, and WhiteRa is going to have to get rid of these scumbag trash can Zerglings if he doesn't want to lose any probes. Unfortunately, he has no forces here in order to defend here, so he's actually going to have to be forced to lose a lot of mining time. As a result, he's trying to keep his probes alive. Now, one Zealot has been sent back home to clean up the garbage, but you know what? He's shown already in this series that he has impeccable micro. I don't expect these Zerglings to die. I think they're going to stay alive for a very long time. I think I'm wrong. Those Zerglings did die. Hyun, you're proving me wrong here. What are you doing? But he has one Zergling still, so let's see if he can micro that and keep it alive for a long enough time in order to find out what's going on inside of WhiteRa's base, because last time he did it, he saw the Stargate, and as a result, the opening Oracle did nada damage, nothing at all. The Phoenix was shut down as well. I think if he can keep this Zergling alive, it's going to pay huge dividends for the Zerg player. And Hyun has expanded down to the next location. He does have 3 hatcheries right now. Back at home, just building on his gases right now, and you know, pretty standard play so far. Nothing too strange coming out of Hyun. Of course, he's waiting to see what kind of building comes out from WhiteRa, where there is actually a Stargate here. It's been built at the bottom of the ramp, but unfortunately the Zergling never saw it. Very nice micro by WhiteRa. He knew that the Zergling was running around in the main base, so he decided to build the Stargate over here, and he sent the Stalker at the right time to intercept. I guess he could have built it over here as well, but the thing about building the Stargate out here is there's no doubt going to be an Overlord. And there it is, coming in, trying to see what kind of hidden tech structures are there. But WhiteRa was very smart. He tucked it in the innards, and it's very unlikely that Hyun is going to see this Stargate. Now, if there's ever a map where Sky Protoss works really well, I think this is the map for it. When you look at the way the map is designed, there's a lot of terrain up and down, cliffs and ledges, gaps, crevasses, and canyons. And anytime there's a lot of stuff that makes it hard for ground troops to maneuver, air-based troops flourish. And so I think if WhiteRa wants to go for a sky-based build here, this is certainly a good map to do it on. He does have that Oracle starting to make its way out across the map, and Hyun right now is moving out across the field with some Zerglings. Speed is still pretty far away, but he's making 32 Zerglings? Huh. 32 Zerglings. I'm not too sure why. He's making a lot of Zerglings. Apparently he wants to go for a ground Zergling attack to try to take out this Nexus. There is an Oracle here. The Oracle immediately shuts down those Zerglings. Just shows how powerful they are. Now these 32 Zerglings, yeah, they're going to rampage this army, but WhiteRa might be able to do a recall. He has enough energy, 100 energy. Will he recall? No. He decides it's not worth the cost of saving 2 Zealots. WhiteRa. And he is going to be able to get out of here because, of course, the Mothership Core can fly, but before the Zealots went down, WhiteRa did see that large number of Zerglings coming out, so he immediately walls off the front door with several gateways. He has a couple of Oracles here with enough energy to pulsar for a few seconds, and I think WhiteRa is just going to be fine. Unlikely, really, that the Zerglings will be able to do much of a threat, but they are going to go nevertheless. There are photon cannons now up and erected though, so those Zerglings have been shut down. And Hyun's strategy here in Game 5 not working out too well so far. I'm sure he wanted those Speedlings to do a little bit more damage than they did. Really, they did absolutely nothing at all so far. And Hyun kind of investing a lot for nothing. But you can see there on the units lost tab, 950 resources lost to only 562. Most of that being the Speedlings that really did nothing at all. Here comes some Oracles flying over to the north. Meanwhile, Mothership Core pushing away the remaining Zerglings in the middle of the map. These Oracles look like they're going to beeline straight towards the main base. And they are really quickly going to take out that Oracle, that Queen, but one Oracle ran out of energy, and that's the problem with the Oracle. It does an amazing amount of damage, but once it runs out of energy, it shuts down. It's like, I quit, I'm done. And when that happens, obviously you're not going to be able to kill off the unit you're targeting. So unfortunately right there, WhiteRa kind of threw away 2 very expensive units, and now all of a sudden the game has tied up in the units lost tab. That obviously WhiteRa kind of throwing away his early game advantage. Now Hydras are preparing to make a potential attack here. WhiteRa realizing that Hydras are coming in as he's got an observer right here. He's trying to desperately break down these rocks so he can get his units in position, but he doesn't have a Colossus anywhere yet. He's just now getting the support bay, and unfortunately for him, he needs a support bay right now if he's going to stop this Hydraless push. Oh man. And in the meantime, of course, Hyun is expanding like a madman. Hyun's going to be on 5 bases momentarily. This is how Hyun likes to play Zerg versus Protoss. Apply pressure while expanding rapidly. And WhiteRa not going to be able to do much at all. He's forced to actually break down the rock towers in order to create a neutral doodad here, which is going to help prevent the Zerg forces from flooding in for a little bit longer. Meanwhile, the Overseer does float into the main base, and it is going to be able to survive just long enough to see the robotic support base. So Hyun now realizes that, okay, WhiteRa is going for Colossus, and guess what? I'm going for Vipers. So perfect unit, because the Viper is the end-all be-all shutdown unit for the Colossus. So Hyun's going to be very happy to see the support bay because he's really got the perfect unit to counter it, the Vipers, and he is going for that tried and true Roach Hydra Viper strategy. It is one of the most deadly and fearsome compositions against Protoss today. I feel like WhiteRa, if he wants to shut this down, I don't know if he wants to continue making Colossus. I think he needs to actually switch into Templar tech, get some High Templar out on the field, but he needs to scout the fact that there are Vipers right now. He actually doesn't know that there are Vipers in the army of the Zerg players, so he needs to get these Phoenixes in a position where they can see the Vipers. I'm not too sure what they're doing right now, just kind of hesitating, waiting, wasting time. They need to be taking out those drones or flying around and scouting, and unfortunately WhiteRa's hesitation there ends up costing him. 91 drones right now for Quantic.Hyun. He's on 5 bases. The Zerg economy is absolutely booming right now. And finally, WhiteRa decides to add on a Templar Archives, which is exactly the building he needs in order to stop the Vipers and to storm the Hydralisks. And that is, by golly, a lot of Hydralisks coming on 2-1 of the current upgrades. WhiteRa doesn't even have any ground upgrades at all. He is about to finish 1-1. But yeah, that's not good for him. Here comes some Spore Crawlers as well from Hyun. Where have we seen this before? And this is a great way just to kind of stop the Colossus, is to just plant down some Spore Crawlers and use some defensive buildings to help keep the Colossus away, and it also keeps the Phoenix away as well. So really nice strategy from Hyun, but he needs to poop some creep over here in order to take advantage of that. Unfortunately, doesn't quite have the creep coming yet. I think Hyun's gonna wait until the Spore Crawlers root down before he makes this attack, but I could be wrong. WhiteRa now planning to take another Nexus, but he might be forced to engage this army first. There's a burrowed Zergling here. It actually sees the entire army, and the Mothership Core gets abducted and taken down immediately. And some Changelings now going to be sent to mix in with the army. Oh, the Templar coming in! And as they were being abducted, they got a couple of feedbacks off on the Vipers, but I think Hyun right now is in a very, very dominant position. The map belongs to him, and he has got so many Vipers here. He could literally abduct the entire Protoss army into his Hydras, and they'd go down almost instantaneously. Not too sure what WhiteRa can do, but WhiteRa is waiting for the Storm upgrade. He's 7 seconds away from getting Storm. Meanwhile, his forces are just getting abducted left and right. Finally, Storm is ready and complete, but a lot of his Templars are out of energy. Oh no, and he is just losing due to alien abductions. Remember all those stories the crazy people came up with when they said they were abducted by aliens? Well, it actually is true here on Akalon Wastes. And Hyun now burrowing his Spore Crawlers down, actually just using the Spore Crawlers as a means of gaining more energy, which is fine. I mean, he's got the entire game under his control right now. I'm not sure what WhiteRa can do. He really needs to keep the Templar in the front and try to get the initiative with the feedbacks, but unfortunately the Vipers are using the high ground here, so the Templars can't see them until the very last second. Here comes the Vipers one more time. Feedback that time does hit home, and WhiteRa, damn man, this is just a spell-based war. Oh, dear goodness. I don't know if WhiteRa can win this game. Hyun is just on the front door, applying constant amount of pressure, and in the meantime, it's just expanding rapidly, has all of these bases, and is droning like a madman. I think at any moment now, he is going to move in and attack and end this game. He is abducting and abducting. What can WhiteRa do? WhiteRa is losing unit after unit. This is like the 50th abduction this game, and if we look at the units lost tab, probably very heavily in favor of Hyun. Yeah, 6,000 resources lost compared to only 2,000 for the Zerg player. And the abductions continue. What a crazy strategy Hyun has come up with, and it's actually working. That's a beautiful thing about this. We're seeing a lot of new innovations here in Heart of the Swarm. And unfortunately for WhiteRa, he hasn't discovered the counter strategy to the Viper abduction army. And I do feel like Templars in position are the right way to stop them, but he needs to get more Templars on the field. He's actually going to push out right now. Now, the one thing working well for WhiteRa is most of the army is composed of Vipers and not of units that can actually attack. And so this actually ends up working pretty well for WhiteRa. He's actually going to clean up the entire Protoss, the entire Zerg ground army. And beautiful play by WhiteRa, because he knew that charge lots would be the cheapest and most cost-efficient unit to shutting down the Hydra Viper army. Blinding Cloud isn't going to work against charge lots, and Hydras, I mean, while they're good, if the charge lots can get in range, they can take out Hydralisks very quickly. And all of a sudden now we have a reversal of roles as WhiteRa has broken through the abduction contain. And now he's going to be able to make an attack, potentially. Most of Hyun's supply is gobbled up by these Vipers. That's the problem with making more than 4 or 5 Vipers, is you don't really have much of an army, but we do have 8 Ultras coming on that production tab, so we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, more abductions occurring, but there isn't enough ground units underneath to support the abducts. What's the point of stealing a unit if you can't do anything about it? But now the Ultras have come in. There we go. And now the abductions have certainly gained a much more fearsome role. Hyun is going to lose his hatchery, but we'll see what happens here. Actually, you know, surprisingly, Hyun, I thought he was expanding a lot more, but he's still on the same number of bases that he was, you know, a few minutes ago. And he hasn't, I'm looking at the drone count right now, he's only got 60 drones, and his income is not that high at all. He's got only 600, 400. So maybe Hyun got a little overconfident with that abduction play, and all of a sudden now WhiteRa has broken through. WhiteRa has a massive bank as well. He's sending some of that bank into the form of zealots because he's got 4,000 minerals. Why not? He's going to try to take out a couple of these hatcheries, and unfortunately, whoa, where did that Colossus, how did that Colossus get there? Probably was abducted. But unfortunately for Hyun, the tables have changed. Could this game be a turnaround game for WhiteRa? Could he get his 4th victory right here? Because this is just an incredible comeback if he does so. He has been able to establish his 4th base, but WhiteRa actually decides to pull back. Which is an interesting maneuver. Not too sure why. I think he should be aggressive right now, but oh man, here comes the Ultras and the Hydras. And Hyun has a lot of Ultras and Hydras here. Here comes the Vipers as well. Now, Blinding Cloud isn't going to be too effective. It's just going to shut down the Stalkers, and he is going to abduct those units inwards. I actually think there's just too many Hydras here. Not too sure if WhiteRa can do anything. And his Templars got to get the Storms down, but a little bit late to the party. And yeah, it looks like Hyun is going to get the victory in Game 5, which is going to bring the series to 3-2, unless somehow, some way, WhiteRa can come out with a miraculous warping of units. Now, of course, WhiteRa has a bunch of minerals. He has way bigger of a bank than Hyun does, but the problem is he can't transform it into actual units all that quickly. He needs to make something right now, but unfortunately, I think he's realized that this game is over. There are way too many Ultras, way too many Hydras. Even if he were to warp all of his warp gates into you know, mostly he can only make zealots because he's out of gas. He just doesn't have enough time to warp out a large enough army to stop these Hydras and these Ultralisks, and so he does. GG, well played. That is Game 5, and Hyun now has brought it back. It is now 3-2. We're gonna go on to Game 6. Hope you guys stay tuned. This is HD. I'm signing out.